What's up? It's Marv of the Miles Ahead podcast. And for today, I want to give my last podcast before I go on my hiatus. So this is going to be particularly about a slew of topics that we particularly don't dive into or talk about on a regular basis on, just our everyday to day, types of conversations. And so right now we have a guest by the name of Mike. He has his own show called Mike in New Haven. My podcast is called Miles Ahead Podcast. If you guys want to check out any of my other episodes or any of my previous podcasts prior, the link will definitely be in the description. As for my online store that some of you guys are already aware of, I will also be putting that in the description as well. Now, me and Mike, we have been, friends since college, and, he's actually been one of those guys who have been pushing me to want to podcast and things of that nature. But as of right now, I'm just going to be taking, just a hiatus, and I'm going to be thinking about whether or not if I still want to continue to podcast. But it has been fun, and I will definitely be diving into some great topics. And, let's just dive into it. But first, I want you guys to hit the like, comment, and subscribe for Mike's channel. And as for me, leave a like and a comment. And, just check out, what I have. And, Mike, do you have anything that you want to say before we just, start talking about whatever that we normally talk about off air? So let's dive into it.
Just not real quick, just wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity to come on your show. And yeah, man, sometimes it's good to take a break. Sometimes it's good to recalibrate and see what you want, see what you don't want. So, I applaud you for recognizing that that maybe you want to step away and try your hand at other projects for a while. It's a good thing. It's not an easy decision to make, but it's a good thing to recognize that about oneself. And I've done it before. I've taken breaks from my show. Like I took 2 years off a few years ago before I came back. And I, recently from December of last year to June of this year, I took a 6-month break. I was on hiatus for 6 months there. So sometimes you need those breaks. You come back with fresh ideas, fresh content. So I hope this break this last podcast will be a great one. But afterwards, I hope this break will give you a chance to recalibrate and get some new ideas. And hopefully you come back and hit it hard. And if not, I know you'll do great in other areas too.
Right. I just want to thank Mike for coming on the show, being one of my only consistent guests. I definitely appreciate him and his insight on a lot of things. And, we just talk a lot. But let's just dive into the show. But first, I want you guys to remember the slogan. Let's not be inches, feet, meters, nor yards. Let's be miles ahead. So, as we all know, this weekend was very huge for the MMA community. Okay? Typically, I don't even talk about the MMA. I think that is personally not really, a demonstration of somebody's skills as it compares to boxing. Now, Mike, what do you think about, the Francis Ngannou fight versus the Tyson Fury fight? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, I believe that Tyson Fury edged it out, okay, despite the knockdown, because in those championship rounds, that's where, you got to leave everything to the judges. Like, this is your make or break type of, situation. You got to leave a great impression on the judges on what they saw. And in the championship rounds, right, Francis, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't throw any punches. So, you can end up still winning a fight even if you get knocked down. Okay? Now, do I believe that it was, a blowout like 96-93? Not necessarily, but I would give Francis a good 4 to 5 rounds. But I could see why, people are so in awe of it being a robbery when it really wasn't a robbery. Okay? I think that Tyson, he just did enough just to get by with the victory. What you think, Mike?
Yeah, you had some people when I went on Twitter or X or whatever the heck it's called nowadays. You had some people saying it was like the biggest robbery in years. That Francis should have won that fight. That at best it was a draw. I kind of got the sense that it was a draw. Listen, I expected Fury to go in there and edge it out just because he's obviously more experienced. Now, as we've covered before, there are some guys in mixed martial arts across the years, not even recently, that their primary reputation is that of a striker. It's not out of the world or unusual to have a fighter introduced and Bruce Buffer or whoever's introducing the fighter in MMA says, this man is a boxer. Nowadays, guys are just, it's different from when UFC first started in the 90s, that guys are more well-rounded. So you got guys now that, they're strikers. They can strike really good, but they're also, world-class kickboxers. They're also world-class jiu-jitsu guys or submission grappling, or they're wrestlers too. So it blends together, and you've seen some guys that prior to going to MMA, where nowadays there's more money in MMA, back then it used to be obviously more money in boxing, they were world-class boxers. Anderson Silva was a great boxer before he took up mixed martial arts and carved out his legendary career. Vitor Belfort, same thing. He was a world-class boxer before he got into MMA. And in the early days of his MMA career, he was known as a vicious knockout artist. So there's guys like that. Ngannou is one of those guys where can he do other stuff like during his MMA career? Yeah, he could. He was a great wrestler. That was one of his other styles, but he's primarily known as a world-class striker and a knockout artist, and he has the knockouts to match that. So I didn't think that he would do poorly, and he didn't. Like, if you're an MMA fan, and if you're a Francis Ngannou fan, you got nothing to hang your head about, because he went in there and he fought a great fight. Like, for somebody that's never done boxing on a professional level, I thought he did a great job. It was a very fun fight. It was an entertaining fight. It was back and forth. But I agree with you. I think, I do see your point about Tyson doing a little bit more in the championship rounds. I don't think it was a robbery. I don't think Francis won the fight. But at the end of the day, I don't think he lost it either. I think that should have been a draw. I think if the judges would have came back and scored that one a draw, not too many people would have been mad at it. I can see the argument for Fury, but I think that one was probably a draw. I'd like to see them run it back. And I like what Francis said after the fight too, where he was like, now I know I can do this, cause we've seen guys, and this is because of what the Paul brothers are doing when they go in there and they throw hands with these guys that are like 42 years old. We've seen guys that come over from MMA, like Nate Diaz or these other guys that they're not punchers, bro. They're just not. Like Tyrone Woodley, not punchers. Can they knock somebody out? Yeah, but that's not their main style. So to see a guy that's relatively in his prime, like Francis Ngannou's not a spring chicken. He's 37 years old, so he's up there, but he's not washed up either. And the long break he's had from MMA has rejuvenated his body because he doesn't have as much wear and tear. To see a guy like that actually go in and take the heavyweight champion of the world the distance and have it be a close fight, that alone is a W, even if he didn't get the official W. But long story short, I personally felt that fight should have been a draw.
Yeah, I think it was too much people had so many expectations and it was so far left and right. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely feel like that was an issue. To me, I expected for Tyson Fury to be able to get a knockout or a TKO. I did not expect the level of boxing ability that Francis had put forth. I believe that, he had been training with Mike Tyson and he had also had some, boxing background prior to fighting Tyson Fury. So he definitely did display a lot of patience in the ring. And that definitely was pleasant to see because you typically don't see that from MMA fighters, especially when it comes to, their stand up game when it comes to throwing hands. Typically, they're trying to throw whatever they could to get the knockout.
Right.
And, a lot of times when it comes to MMA fighters, they leave their hands down. They are more likely to get hit during those times.
Susceptible. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to Francis, he left his hands up and, he kept his hands up from him getting hit. He was also very strong. He ate a lot of Tyson's punches. And, like I said, I think that if Francis had just, you know, landed something significant in the latter 2 rounds. He possibly could have won. Tyson, he was winning the fight on jabs in the last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And, there was some swing rounds here and there and stuff like that. And most of the time, the swing rounds, they do end up going to the champion, especially if you're not dominating. That's when it comes. That's something that people don't realize. So it's not a robbery. It was a close fight. Okay, it was a close fight. And to me, if it wasn't for the knockdown, I don't believe that it would have been as exciting as everybody's making it out to be. I think it would have been, called a boring fight. Okay?
Hmm.
And I'll say this, when it comes to boxing, okay, people, they want to try and, make it seem like it's not important. Okay? Boxing, it is a martial art. Okay? Like, it's
Yeah, of
literally a
course.
martial art. And for somebody to, make it seem like you don't need boxing to be able to survive or to be able to get anywhere, boxing is obviously one of the top 3 martial arts of all time. Now does this, bring a stir for making fighters want to actually come from the MMA circuit and try to face boxers, since they saw Francis do it and do a very good job? In my opinion, I do believe that is gonna, make more fighters want to come in. Like I heard Sean O'Malley said that he wants to go up against Tank Davis. Now, I think that he's bugging, because
Yeah.
Tank
I'm about to
Davis,
say he's very bold.
he's somebody who works on his, hands specifically. Okay, he's a master at that martial art in terms of boxing. Okay, and when it comes to the power, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, or 99.9 times out of 10, when it comes to the power in a boxer's hands compared to the power of an MMA striker, is vastly different. Vastly different. And you would see a lot more knockouts the more and more the MMA fighters step into the ring against a boxer. Okay, and we've seen it, basically. I mean, we've seen, Floyd, he got his knockout. We saw Jake Paul get his knockout, despite him, not necessarily going up against, strikers. He was still able to get his knockout because of their lack of training in the boxing field. Okay, sometimes their footwork may be off. Sometimes they keep their hands too down. That stuff matters. And like Muhammad Ali, he was the first person to go up against a boxer in the ring. I think he was a kickboxer. I think his name was Inoki or something like that.
He was
And
a
the
wrestler.
dude he got down, a wrestler. Okay. And I didn't he like get down and then he kicked him in his knees or something like that, almost destroyed his career.
Yeah, that was Antonio Inoki. So that was a big fight.
Yeah.
Like that was like in the 60s, I believe. And Inoki is the reason why mixed martial arts took off in Japan. A lot of the great fighters
Right.
that came from that part of the world were inspired by, or if not directly trained by, Inoki. And yeah, like Inoki was going ham on those kicks. He was a wrestler. I think he was a kickboxer too, to your point. And yeah, like that's what kind of changed it. Because if that fight had went any further, yeah, Ali's legs would have been done for a long time, because that's how powerful those leg kicks are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I don't want to discredit anybody's art. Okay,
Right.
everybody's great at their field, but in my opinion, when it comes to defending yourself, you need boxing, you need wrestling, and I believe that you would need some level of kicking training out there.
Jiu-jitsu too. Jiu-jitsu's important.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. But like, boxing has been around, for centuries, for thousands of years, all the way back until like, I mean, in the Bible, like that stuff has been around forever.
Yeah.
So, this type of thing is never going to go out of style. Now, like, did boxing take a hit? I do believe it did take a hit because Tyson Fury, he didn't take Francis as serious as Francis was taking him serious. Had Tyson had taken it more seriously and, just decided to, step it up and, do what's needed to be done in terms of his training, maybe he does get, a knockdown or, a knockout or something like that. Or put like this, it becomes more of a war. Okay. But Francis, he put up a great show. Okay. Great patience. Uh, he knew that Tyson, was trying to come in at certain points. I was just surprised that Tyson was boxing from the outside. I felt like that was a very dumb fight that he was fighting. I felt like he should have just, stayed on the outside while boxing instead of just trying to continuously go on the inside, especially against the bigger puncher because Francis
Right.
was the bigger puncher.
Right.
So, you got to give Francis his credit. Now, do I think that Francis could go ahead and beat up somebody of Deontay Wilder's caliber? No, I don't, because Deontay Wilder, he has power that Tyson Fury doesn't have. Okay. So, but, can he, beat some heavyweights? Yes, I do believe that he can definitely beat some heavyweights because of the foundation that he had already put in boxing, period. Okay? Like, he's great at what he does just in fighting instincts alone. So,
Oh yeah.
You got to give Francis a lot of credit for what he did. But like I said, I don't believe that he won the fight just based off of, what he didn't do in the championship rounds. If he would have, just ended up, if he just would have just hit him with something significant, it's possible that he definitely would have won that fight for sure. Now, it's not a robbery, okay? It's not a robbery, all right,
No,
at
not at
all.
all.
It was a close fight, not at all. But I'll say this. This is what people don't know. When it comes to each round, it has to be scrapped from your memory, okay? That's exactly what it has to be scrapped from your memory. Judges, they take in, this is what they do, right? They take in effective aggression, okay? Ring generalship, clean punches, and defense, okay? All that stuff matters for every round, okay? So even if Francis had just, came in aggressive, but it was effective, and, he just landed a couple jabs here and there on Tyson, like I said, it definitely would have, swayed the judges. But because of Tyson's, ring savvy and experience, you got to give him the credit for being able to even last against somebody, especially since, maybe Tyson hasn't, fought in a very long time. You got to give Tyson some credit, but like I said, like you can't give him all the credit. This actually a Francis praise situation because at the end of the day, he was not supposed to last. Tyson was supposed to take it more seriously, and it just looks bad on boxing. But I'll say this: it definitely does bring boxing to a whole nother stratosphere if we could get more and more MMA guys or people who like MMA to watch boxing more because then they'll become fans and stuff like that. But like I said, I just think it's definitely a different sport for sure.
Yeah, and you have guys, even still, and to your point earlier when you were saying that MMA has started because of boxing, even now, think about it, even now that MMA has exploded in popularity and become a worldwide phenomenon, even now that UFC has become the powerhouse that it has and the monopoly in the MMA world that it has, you still have
Right.
guys that that are top dogs in that sport, want to do boxing,
Right.
And you still have the fact that there is more money in boxing than there is in mixed martial arts. And Ngannou saw that.
Right.
That's part of the reason why he came on over into boxing too. And this was a guy who was a top dog. He was the heavyweight champion. He never lost his belt. The only reason his belt was taken off of him is not because somebody beat him for it, it's because his contract expired and didn't renew it. So this was a guy that never lost his title, was a dominant and consistent champion that defended regularly when he had the title. And, again, I thought back to 6 years ago. Wow, it's crazy how time flies too. When Conor fought Floyd. And we talk about that fight quite a bit. And if you remember, what Conor did in that fight was stupid because in the beginning he was going ham. Like he was throwing hands with Floyd and he was going all out. Yeah. He only conditions himself on the regular for a 3 to 5 round fight. Most cases 5 rounds.
Right.
He's had a lot of championship fights in UFC. After round 5, which is what his body's normally designed to go for, he was cooked. And Floyd says, okay, now you're in my world. I survived the first 5 rounds with you. Now it's my turn. And we all know what happened in that fight. Floyd TKO'd him. This fight, fast forward 6 years later.
I wouldn't say survived, though. I wouldn't say survived.
Well, not survived, but you know what I mean. Like Floyd
carried that, man.
Yeah, he basically, that's true. Man. That's true. That's a fair point.
He could have gotten him out there in the first 4 rounds if he wanted to. I think he just did that.
I think Floyd,
just to give the fans something to watch, you know what I'm saying?
That's a fair point. I think, Floyd basically let the guy get his shots off, basically. That's true.
Get some shots off,
Get some shots off, basically burn himself out. Floyd was playing coy in the first 5 rounds of that fight. But fast forward 6 years later to this one, I thought Ngannou fought a much smarter fight. Like you said, he didn't leave his
he did.
Down.
Sure did.
He conditioned himself well. He knew his opponent. He understood. You could tell he took time to study his opponent. Like we said earlier, could he have done more in those championship rounds? Yeah, and that probably would have got him the fight. But I thought that tactically, that was about as smart a fight as he possibly could have had. And do I think he could beat some of the other heavyweights out there with more training and more time? Yeah. Do I think it would be smart for him to leave mixed martial arts behind and go full-time into boxing? Probably. There's more money there and he'll get some big fights. But I think it's a very encouraging start for him. I don't think most people aren't unrealistic about his expectations. Like you said, there's no way you're going to put him in there with Deontay Wilder now and expect him to TKO or KO Deontay Wilder. It's not happening. But I think it's a good start. I liked his approach. I liked his pace. I liked his conditioning. And like we said earlier, like he knows now, okay, I can do this. If I can go in there and not embarrass myself and actually put up a competitive and close fight against the heavyweight champion of the world in my first professional boxing fight, his first one, then, the sky's the limit for a guy like that. Now, what I will say is, back in the day, another guy that I thought probably could have transitioned into boxing if he wanted to because he was a lethal knockout artist was Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell could have done something like that. So I think, what this provides is an avenue for guys and a crossover too. Now, granted, it's not going to happen all the time. I don't see Tank Davis fighting Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean's a great fighter, but I wouldn't put him in the ring with Tank.
Hold on. If Saudis cut the check.
Oh, yeah, well, for sure. Might be different. Yeah, that's Saudi money. You're right. That Saudi money is different. So, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if the right money comes into play, yeah, they'll probably take that fight for sure because they do the same thing with pro wrestling. That's why WWE is always over there doing shows too. But whatchamacallit, yeah, I don't see like a consistent crossover happening, but you'll see some instances where, maybe not a Sugar Sean or a Tank Davis, but other instances where guys that are known for striking will do it, and now they know they can do it because what's Dana White going to say? No, it's great promotion for his sport. It's great promotion for his company. And it's about time guys start doing that.
Is it because, like, we all know why that Francis left the MMA to do boxing is because of the issues with Dana White. Dana White, he makes the UFC a monopoly. And because of that reason, it's like nobody can really get involved or nobody can truly have their own company and truly shine by themselves. Now, when it comes to, more MMA fighters trying to cross over, I think it's going to be a lot tougher because, like I said, all boxers work on is what? their
Their
hands.
hands.
Okay,
Their
that's
hands.
all they do
Yep.
is work on their hands. They work on their feints. They work on all these things to be able to disrupt an opponent. Their counters, all that stuff.
Yep.
So all that stuff matters. And plus, you can't take a couple flush shots and be able to just still be good. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's gonna
that
wear you
stuff
down after a while.
it's gonna wear you down after a while. All right, especially if that person's constantly trying to hit your liver. All those things, take into account. But like
Yeah.
I said, like you gotta give Francis's credit for even being in that level of shape in the first place to even last as long as he did. Because
Oh, he
at the end
lasted
of
the
the
whole
day,
fight. Yeah.
yeah, he lasted the whole fight. And, at some points in the championship rounds, he said he was tired. And you could clearly see it. But hey, he didn't go down. He kept his hands up, and he still was able to ink it out to a decision. Like people they don't know how much for boxing takes out when it comes to the energy that you're using. It takes a lot of energy when it comes to just keeping your hands up in general. That stuff matters. But as far as, the crossover stuff, we've already seen it. It started from Floyd, okay, with the whole, Connor situation. And now we got Jake Paul. Now we got, you know, Logan Paul. Like we've seen crossovers and stuff like that. The question is like, how much money does the person want? Okay, because
That's the key. Because
that's
I'll
where
tell you, like,
that's
I
what
don't mean to cut you off, but I
exactly
mean, I was gonna say, you don't see a lot of guys go from boxing into MMA. It gets talked about. You saw this
right.
once. I can recall years ago. It was like 2009. And for all the old school UFC fans that'll listen to this, you remember this fight. James Toney is one of the best boxers of all time. Man has like 75, 76 wins to his belt. He only lost 10 times. Most of his wins were by knockout. Legendary boxer. He went into mixed martial arts for a one-time fight because he was beating the drum that boxers were better than MMA, and he fought Randy Couture. Now, for those of you that are old school UFC fans, like I said, you know Randy Couture. Randy Couture is one of the greatest fighters on the MMA side of all time. Light heavyweight champion, the natural. They used to call him the natural and Captain America. That dude was a freaking warrior. And Randy Couture, at 46 years old, made light work of James Toney in the cage, embarrassed James Toney in the cage, took him down, humbled him, literally choked him out with like 3 or 4 minutes into the very first round. We have not seen any boxers since go into the cage and try to do MMA. Now I wonder, like Grant, we usually see it the other way. Guys go from MMA to boxing. And we just covered it earlier. There's reasons why. Obviously, there's more money there. There's more eyes on it, depending on who you're fighting. But I would like to see potentially in the future, maybe 1-on-1s. I don't think it's possible because of the injury risk, insurance, money, and whatnot. But like the same way Conor fought Floyd in boxing, I would have liked to have seen Floyd after that fight, and some months have gone by to train, come on over into the octagon and face Conor. But that never was going to happen. Similarly, I don't think Tyson Fury is going to go into the cage and fight Francis in an MMA fight if he had months of training. So I wonder how we can get it to where instead of guys going from MMA into boxing, we get that other crossover too, where world-class boxers decide, you know what, let me try my hand at MMA, even if it's just one time.
Yeah, but like I see what you're saying for sure. I mean, that would be cool to see. But I'll say this, right? Like I said, it's more history behind boxing than it's ever been behind MMA. So, this is what everybody, always goes to. And when it comes to the MMA, right, I wouldn't say that, that it's necessarily pleasing to my eye. I think it's more barbaric. Okay.
Right, fighting without
I'm not
shoes,
really, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, I would say, truly a skillful fight. Now, it's skillful guys who do it. Like, put it like this, like I would never step into a cage unless like I knew what to do. But in regards to MMA fighters and the boxing circuit, right? They are calling out the boxers. It's not the exact opposite. Boxers, they're never calling out the MMA fighters. I mean, that never happens. For the most part, boxers, they don't really care, okay, because they're making the money, and plus, their sport is viewed as far more skillful than MMA is. Okay, it's viewed like that. And I could see why, because, the person is always working on that one skill on a regular basis. Far more of a martial art in terms of somebody working on something specifically over and over and over again, trying to get
Right.
something right over and over and over again, than basically somebody who is just good at everything, but they're not great at everything. Okay? So I think that's the reason why you're never gonna see, a boxer call out an MMA fighter, okay? But you're gonna see an MMA fighter call out a boxer because they feel like, oh, I have some hands or stuff like that, or put like this, or I've done some kickboxing here and there, I've done some karate. Let me get in this sport and let me see if I could dominate. Okay? And like I said, it's because of the history, and it's plus on top of that, the punishment. Um, it. I mean, it's easier for somebody to just get choked out and then tap out than it is for somebody to constantly take blows to your liver and your head and get concussions and go through all these issues with your protocols and your body, okay, on a regular basis. You got people losing eye sockets and all that type of stuff. People actually die in the sport of boxing. And
Right.
when it comes to the MMA, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but like it's more so a rarity than it is for boxing. So, but yeah, I mean, I like both sports. Okay, I'm not trying to diss no sport right now. Okay, but to me,
it's an
I
honest
just
look, though.
think
It's an
that
honest look.
it's just an honest look. That's all. I'm just looking from afar. That's just what I see. All right, I'm not trying to, be disrespectful to both sports. Okay, I like both sports. I know who John Jones is. I know who George St. Pierre is. Okay, so I know these guys. I know Nurmagomedov. I don't really know how to say his
Khabib.
name exactly.
You got it. Yeah,
Khabib,
that's how you say his name.
right? So, it's great in both sports, okay? Greats in both sports. I would like to see John Jones versus Francis, but we already know what's happening. Dana White and the whole situation with him making it a monopoly and him not wanting to pay these fighters like how they should be paid. That's just
Right.
what it is. So that I mean, that's just the type of situation that people are going through. And, but hey, if the Saudis are in, they're going to cut that check. So
Yeah.
there you go.
That's the X factor.
Okay, so Mike, do you have anything else that you want to, get off your chest about this fight, or anything else that you want to talk about pertaining to MMA or boxing in general, or is that it?
No, that's it. We covered it pretty well.
Okay. All right. So now let's move on to Jimmy Butler. Okay. And also, let me see. You got Dwight Howard. And what's the last thing that happened that was kind of crazy?
Well, there's two things on the court that are pretty interesting. That's crazy as far as on the court goes. And that's what James Harden's doing, which is typical James Harden. And obviously the big thing, the blockbuster of Dame Lillard. So there's a lot of places to start with that, on the court or off the court. You mentioned Dwight. I don't know if you want to start there. That was crazy.
Okay, let's start with Dwight. Wait. Let's start with Dwight and Jimmy Butler. And then I wanted to talk about Jalen Green briefly. But
yeah,
put like this, right? We're just going to go outside the court, right?
Mm-hmm.
The NBA, I'm just going to take all these guys in a hat and I'm just gonna put them all together. All right,
Mm-hmm.
it's become less and less masculine. All right, that's what we're seeing out of these men. All right, like they're acting like they're not grown anymore. And basically, we're just seeing it on full display. All right. And to be honest with you, it all started from Dennis Rodman. Okay. And, with him wearing a dress and, with him, expressing himself in a non masculine way. Okay. And now or whatever, we get the Jimmy Butler, emo Jimmy. Okay. Now we get Dwight Howard and his situation. No wonder why no teams wanted to sign him. Okay. Because he's great at what he does, which is defense and stuff like that. But, Dwight Howard, it's obvious that he has some mental health problems. And that's just the problem with him. Okay. He's mentally not there. Okay. And when it comes to nobody wants to have those certain type of conversations with him at all. Okay. Now he's definitely, somebody who should have been in the top 75. Nobody is disputing that. He definitely should go to the Hall of Fame. Nobody's disputing that either. But in regards to what you get yourself into outside of basketball, okay, it does not need to be displayed. Okay, it doesn't. But however, it is displayed because of the social media, the television, all this type of stuff. We're looking into what you're doing more and more often. Okay, and it's unfortunate, but I will say this: the very first time that Dwight Howard made me feel some type of way about him as a person was on Nationwide TV. Okay, I was watching him play on the Rockets, and he was going to the bench, and then he turned around and then he groped Isaiah Cannon. Okay, we never heard about Isaiah Cannon again
That's
after that
true. I
situation.
forgot about that.
Okay, he literally did that to a grown man. Okay, after that, let me explain to you. I was in high school when I saw that. After that, I never viewed Dwight Howard the same, despite no matter how many baby mothers that he had. Okay, I think that Dwight Howard is a pansexual. He's somebody who will just have sex with anything. Okay, anything to get his fix off. But we did not need to see what he did on Nationwide TV. Okay, so that was the first thing that actually made me think that maybe he's not maybe he's just everywhere. Okay,
That's a good way to
that's
put
just
it.
yeah. So that's just what I think for when it comes to Dwight Howard. But he's not the only one. The issue is like when it gets more and more put out there, like when you see with D Wade. Okay, D Wade and his issues. See, we did not see this, when he was playing. We didn't see none of this at all. But the next thing we're seeing this now more than ever now that he's retired. Okay, with his son, which I'm not even going to dive into the issues that he's having, with his son or whatever. But it's obvious that D Wade. I recall him talking in an interview one day, and he literally said that it was normal for him to dress in his sister's clothes. And I'm like, that's not normal. It's not normal. Okay? It's not normal. But we didn't need to hear that from you, D Wade. You're retired. Okay? All we want to hear about is your game. Okay? Now for Jalen Green, on the other hand, this dude was dry humping his teammate. Okay?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like we've seen men with chandelier earrings. We've seen men with with their fingernails painted. Like, bro, like just stop. Okay? We just want to watch basketball. We just want to watch basketball. That's it.
Just stop.
That's it. Okay?
Uh,
That's all you want to watch is just basketball, and you're making it worse for yourself. You're literally making companies not want to work with you. You're literally making companies, not really want to be signed with you. All those things. So the thing is like you gotta question what are you doing? What is your word? What is literally keeping you back from you actually reaching the superstardom? When Jimmy Butler did that, right? I just knew that there's something off about him because at the end of the day, we see him hanging out with D Wade on a regular basis. Okay,
right, like best
obvious. They're like best buddies. Why are they best buddies? Why? That's something that I should not be questioning when it comes to basketball. Okay. All right. Stop explaining
I can feel the pain.
We don't need to see it.
I can feel the pain in your
Go
voice.
ahead, Mike.
No, it's just, I needed that laugh, bro. I could feel the pain in your voice as you were talking about this. Because, you know what, you're right. I think a lot of it, too, is social media. Because we live in an age where freedom of expression is encouraged more so than ever. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And nowadays, people are trying, or not trying, but a lot of people have suggested that gender norms are antiquated and things of that sort, which is what makes a lot of, not all, but a good portion of women act like men, or a good portion of men, act like women. And Rodman started this in the 90s when, like you said, when he was wearing dresses and makeup and marrying himself in a public ceremony in New York City.
Right.
And a lot of that was just to promote himself. I mean, he had a book coming out at the time in 1995, 1996 when he was with the Bulls. So, a lot of it was that too. And he's always been a character to say the least. And when you dig into his mental history, which he himself has been pretty candid about, if you ever watched the 30 for 30 on him, it makes sense why he would, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you can see why he would make some of the decisions that he's made, for better or worse, in his life. But fast forward, I mean, it's not even just basketball. Like Caleb Williams, who's going to be the number one pick in next year's NFL draft. It's a tankathon between several teams to see who's going to get the number one pick to draft him. He paints his fingernails, Like the only time I've ever seen guys do that is in baseball. Catchers would paint their nails with a very clear polish, but there was a reason for that, so the pitcher could see better what signals the catcher was throwing down. So it was a part of gamesmanship to do that, and it wasn't anything out of the norm. It was, so he can see, he wants a fastball. Oh, he wants me to throw a curveball. So there's a reason within the game for that. Now I'm like, it's just Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy just wants attention. Last training camp last season, he showed up with like dreadlocks. He looked like a Rasta when he showed up. And then this year he's going for the emo look. So there's a lot of things now. I mean, it's a slippery slope. It's well beyond our scope to comment on it, but it's just, I think, and it's not, when we say this, and I'm saying this in a general sense, we're not saying that we want people to be robots. Have a personality. Don't be rigid. Don't be cold. Have a personality, Listen, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to goof around with your friends, or in this case, goof around with your teammates and, do funny things in the locker room. But there's a line. And I feel like a lot of guys now, they're just not being guided by the right people. And there's different extremes. You have the Jalen Green part of it. You have the Dwight Howard part of it. You have the John Morant part of it, which is an entirely different discussion for an entirely different day, about these guys that don't have the proper guidance, don't seem to know how to carry themselves. And the worst part is, this is the dangerous combination, bro, as we've talked about plenty of times off the air. All these guys have money, they're not mature. Immaturity is bad enough as it is. Immaturity combined with, generational wealth that has you and your family set for life, if not for the next decade at the very minimum, is a deadlier combination, because since you have the money, there's not a lot of things that you're going to be prohibited from doing. So, it's just, you're right. There's a lot of stuff that goes on the court that I don't like, but it's off the court now where, listen, Charles Barkley, to his credit, and I love the NBA on TNT crew, he put Adam Silver on the spot, because one thing that's been happening a lot lately is domestic violence cases in the NBA are rising, which is not good,
Right.
and to say the least. So Barkley said, "What are you doing about
Wait,
it?"
before
Adam Silver.
sorry, before you
Go ahead.
get there,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry for interrupting you.
Hmm.
In regards to you saying the money and things of that nature and how much they have, shouldn't that just just tell people that they're not regular people?
You're
They're
not
not regular people. They will never be a regular person. They've never grown up to be a regular person from age 14 or 13. It's some people who were just known all around the area that they're going to the NBA. And do you want to know what happened? They got free sneakers, free lunches, free this, free that, free cars, all
everybody
that
wants to be
type of
their
stuff.
friend.
They don't know what it's like to be a regular person. Everybody wants to be their friend. Then on top of that, to me, I think honestly, the only person who may know what it's like to be an actual regular person for real is Kurt Warner. I watched this movie. All right, that was a regular. That's a regular, everyday, regular person in in the middle of Montana. I don't really recall where he was living at during the time, but he was having a struggle with his life. Okay, and when it comes to some of these NBA players, they have been coddled ever since they were young. So it's interesting that you have said that you brought up the money and stuff like that. They don't know exactly what to do with it per se. This just tells me that I've always said this throughout all the times of me and you just jaw japping off of air. They should never be called role models at any point.
Right. No, you're right, and I concur with that completely. I concur with that completely. And that's the thing now that, when you look at the way they conduct themselves, and look at the Miles Bridges thing now, that's a while ago. That happened a while ago. But that was a black eye for the sport, and certainly a mark on him as a person. And when you look at him and other instances like Morant or other guys that are doing crazy freaking things off the court, that are getting themselves in trouble with the police, you know, it sends a bad message everywhere. It does definitely cast a shadow over the league. And like I said, Barkley put Adam Silver on the spot and asked him straight up, "What are you going to do about this, or what's the plan?" And Adam Silver essentially gave a politician's answer. He didn't have an answer. He didn't have a solution to these problems, because we're essentially at a point now, and this is where I miss David Stern. Listen, David Stern was many things, some good, some not. But one thing you could never say about David Stern is that he didn't have control of his league. You may not have
Right.
agreed with some of the decisions that he made. Some people in hindsight have called him a hater, like when he was cracking down on AI back in the day over what Iverson was doing with his buddies off the court, the dress code, the whole 9 yards. But you know what? Players abided by it. He kept his players in line because he did not want a black eye over his league. Now, there were things beyond his control. What happened with Kobe back in 2003 in Colorado. Some of the stuff Iverson did. You can't watch these guys 24/7. You can try. The NBA definitely does, have people do that, but you can't be watching them all the time, every single second of the day. But for the most part, we didn't have as many scandals over David Stern's NBA as we do now with Adam Silver. And the difference is Adam Silver's kind of on the other extreme. David Stern sometimes I feel was too strict, and that was something that kind of detracts from his legacy as commissioner. Adam Silver is much too lax. He pretty much allows everything. He allows these players to express themselves in a manner that's not always helpful, and at times downright detrimental to themselves and their team, and strictly themselves and their reputation. And unfortunately,
Right.
when I see some of the things these guys are doing now, you know, say what you will about LeBron James. Say what you will about some of the things he says, and you and I, like, if we've done a podcast before, we're not breaking new ground when we say this. Marvin and I aren't the biggest LeBron James fans in the world. We respect his career. We respect what he's accomplished. We don't particularly like the guy, but listen, I'll
Right.
give the guy props for this. Has he ever had a scandal to the level of what we're seeing with these guys? Yeah, he said stuff in the media sometimes that has attracted attention because his political statements. That's different. I'm talking about stuff that's detrimental as far as, the law goes and getting in trouble. to that degree. He has never in his 21 years in the NBA done anything like that. And unfortunately, this is where some people, I'm not saying it's correct, they think this way, just to conclude my point. But this is why some people look at the NBA and says, "Oh, I don't watch that. They're just a bunch of thugs." Same thing with the NFL. They look at the NBA as just a bunch of thugs. And what enhances that take? What enhances that reputation the NBA unfortunately has in some circles? Not only guys doing stuff like Jalen Green or Dwight Howard or Morant or anybody else for that matter, Miles Bridges, but them not being punished for it. If Miles Bridges would have gotten a season-long suspension and would have had to donate his paycheck, as an example, to domestic violence charities, that would send a message, But instead, what did he get? Morant, 25 games. Oh, boo-hoo, he'll miss 25 games. He'll come back, he'll play the other 57. He's not going to learn. Now, if you suspended Ja the whole year and you mandated him to go to counseling and you put him, with mothers who have lost their children to gun violence since he wants to play around with guns and act like Larry Hoover, yeah, that might set him straight. It sends a message, but that's not something the NBA knows how to do right now. And that's why they have the reputational problems they do.
Okay, well, in regards to LeBron James, we will never know, okay, because he's such a big superstar. Some superstars, they get, so much, media attention and stuff like that. If he does something off the court, it's going to be hid by somebody like an Adam Silver. Okay, who is?
It depends on what it is. If it's a small thing, media, but if it's a big thing, right. It'll get its way out there.
Yeah. If it's huge, yes, it's definitely gonna get out there for sure. But I don't think that we would ever see LeBron go to the extent of a Jimmy Butler, Dwight Howard, or a Jalen Green level of, off the court level of problems. No, I don't think that we would ever see that. But in regards to Ja Morant, I don't believe that he should have been, suspended for the entire year. But as far as all the other, things that you attributed that should have been done to him, yes, I do believe that definitely should have happened. But when it comes to these players, Miles Bridges that you spoke of, Ja Morant, and, some football players here and there, they want to be the rappers so bad.
Right.
That's the thing that's crazy. Some of these rappers can't even rap. That's the thing that's even more weird, more than anything. All right? Some of these rappers don't have a bar to their name. Okay?
Right.
And yet at the same time, they want to be hood. Okay? They want to be that. They want to know what it's like to shoot somebody. Okay? And guess what? His situation is not as egregious as the other kid who's a high schooler. I forget his name. But he was supposed to go into college. Okay? And he was supposed to be some huge name. Okay? He literally was playing with LeBron James' son in some camps. Okay? And he has a huge afro. You know who I'm talking about? He's very well known on the YouTube Spaces. And
yeah, let me see while you're talking to me, look him up.
But like I said, this guy, he decided to get a whole bunch of gun charges, even though his father is literally a college graduate, okay? And, he's done very well for himself as a person. And yet, at the same time, you want to throw your life away, okay? Very stupid. All because of what you listen to, all right? They're even worse role models, like the rappers that you listen to. Some of them are fake, all right? They're not real with what they're saying. They can literally fabricate anything, okay? And the real people, they're literally ignorant enough to even put that on a record, okay?
Yeah.
For themselves to be checked out by the police, okay?
Right. I mean, back
at the
then,
same time,
I don't mean to cut you off, but let me just say real quick. It's funny before you continue. Back then, rappers and ballers were going as hard as they were because they were trying to get out of the projects, right? Now you got
Right.
guys, rappers and ballers now that are trying to get into the projects. Like back then, these guys
Right.
were
Exactly.
they were using their talent, whatever it was, as an MC or as a baller, because they were trying to get out of the hood and they were trying to make a better life for themselves and for their people, for their families, mom, dad, whatever, siblings. Nowadays, these guys, like Michael Irvin put his own son on blast the other day, and I love that he did this.
Yep.
He's like, his son's, I guess, a wannabe rapper or whatever. He's like, I listen to these bars.
Tarantino.
Yeah, he's like, I wonder where these bars even come from. He's like, son, you grew up in a gated community your whole life. Like, listen, it's okay.
Yep.
It's good that you
20,000 square mansion. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, it's good. Like, listen, don't think that you're soft just because you grew up in a good situation. That's the way you're supposed to grow up. You're supposed to grow up with both parents being there. You're supposed to grow up with both parents looking after you the way they're supposed to and providing for you on a physical and an emotional level. You're not supposed to grow up without a mom. You're not supposed to grow up without a dad. That's not, there's nothing cool about that. I can tell you. I grew up without a father, Thankfully, my mother's a strong woman and she raised me right. And I have my older sister who was a good example too. But you know what? Would it have been nice to have a dad in my life who was a good father figure and a good role model for me? Of course. So why, for those of you that are out there that grew up with that, like, cherish that. There's a lot of people right now who wish they would have had that and are doing poorly in life because they didn't have that. Thankfully, I'm not doing poorly. I'm doing okay. But there's a lot of people who are doing poorly because they didn't have a mom or a dad. So why are you trying to get into those situations where, like you said, you're throwing it all away?
Yep. Why would you? Why would you?
Because they're stupid.
But you want to know why? It's not because of the stupidness, right? It's because of the women that they think that they could get. That's the problem,
they want
too.
To impress them. That's the problem.
Okay. They want to try and impress them. All right. That's also the issue. Okay. It's sometimes it's just about the women. Actually, I should tell you the truth. I think when I was in college or whatever, some girl said to me, I would look better if I had tattoos. And I was like, what? That just motivated me not to get tattoos. I don't need no tattoos to make me to make me better looking than what I already am. No, I don't need that. Yeah. So basically I just did the exact opposite. So like I said, that's why that you got guys like this kid, Michael Irvin's son, doing that type of stuff, but because he wants to try to impress other women. Okay. And plus on top of that, he also wants to impress, his friends and stuff like that, or, just try to make his rap, situation go up. And, it just makes it look worse on him because now he's just been exposed as a faker. And, nobody was going to do him regardless because of, put it like this, if the music's not good, then you're not good. Okay? All right? Everything has to correlate.
That's the thing. This is true. It's true. And let me just say this too, like, bro, as another example, like, bro, why you gotta be a rapper? Like, be an R&B singer. We could use some R&B singers right now. We don't have enough R&B singers.
The R&B singer.
Yeah, bro, it's okay. I like R&B. There's a lot of girls that like R&B. Like, or even back then, like, as an example, before you continue, there was a rapper, and he's not with us anymore. And those of you out there that know hip hop, you know this man for sure. And if you don't, brush up on his music, bro. Heavy D. Heavy D, who left us far too soon back in 2011, that dude never went on there on his raps and cursed. I can't remember a song of Heavy D's where he cursed a lot. I can't remember a song of Heavy D's where he never talked about having guns and going in the hood and beating people up or anything like that. He was from the Bronx, I believe. Bro, Heavy D was nothing but positive in his songs, and he wrote a lot of, like, basically hip-hop love songs, like Nothing But Love by Heavy D, which came out in 1994, is one of my all-time favorite songs, bro. Like, bro, that dude was never about the hood, never pretended to be. He never rapped any vulgarity. He never rapped about violence. He was always positive in his music. And you know what? He's a legend. People to this day love Heavy D, bro. He had the respect of the streets. And why? Because he was real. Like, you could go out there if you want to, whatever it is, if you want to be a baller, if you want to be a rapper, if you're your real self, no matter where people are from, they're going to respect you. Hood, upscale, they're going to respect you because you're being you.
funny that you say, Heavy D and stuff like that. I just think that, people, they are more entertained and they're more addicted to thrill seeking more than ever before. Okay. They're addicted to social media. They're addicted to a whole lot of things, which is actually, making more people psychotic. Okay. Because they're looking to try to get the energy that actually may never even come. In regards to the kid Tut Tarantino or Michael Irvin's son, Elijah Irvin, he's never going to get the energy that he's looking for, ever. But in regards to what you said in terms of, why can't we, get more rappers and why can't we get more R&B singers? No, the question should be, why can't we get more doctors, more lawyers, more entrepreneurs, more anything else other than music to elevate the community or better ourselves as a country. Okay, why can't we get better inventors, make things that are more constructed to be used for everybody? Okay, more creators. That should be the question, because at the end of the day, these things come and go. Your rap song may be hot today, but it could be gone in the next 2 seconds in other people's mind. Okay, unless you're making something that is literally masterful, and you're not going to be seeing that as a rapper for the most part, because you do have your key rappers out there that are great at what they do. For the most part, it's a lot of unsuccessful rappers out there. Okay, it's a lot. Okay, and if you can't rap on beat, and if you can't find a fire producer to produce the beat and great engineers, there's no point in you doing music. Go try and do something else that will definitely help you be great. It's just facts. Because at the end of the day, we don't need to see another rapper. We've seen them all. Okay? We've seen all the singers. We've seen all the other stuff. But we do need to see more doctors, more lawyers, more bookkeepers, more of those things. More people
Firefighters,
who are
police officers.
trying, firefighters, police officers. Like, we could go on and on. Detectives. Okay? Because at the end of the day, you gotta look out what's the best for you. Okay? And to me, when it comes to being a rapper, for the most part, it's just not a good path. It's not. Okay? And to me, all it does is just glorify, the drugs, um, the gun violence, all those types of things. Like I mentioned this in the show called Snowfall. Okay? Snowfall, it was a great show. But would I rather want to see something else that's far more elevating in terms of, out my community or your community? Yes, I would much rather want to see that. Okay, but hey, here we are watching the garbage. Now, Snowfall wasn't garbage. Okay, it was very realistic. But Power is garbage. Okay, that's very unrealistic. And all it does is just make drug dealing and gun violence and all that type of stuff cool. That's the problem. It's not cool. And to be honest with you, what I'm saying, it's not called cooning. Okay, the real coons, it's the drug dealers. It's the people who make this type of music, this toxic music. It's also a whole lot of other things in regards to the real coons. All right, the drug users, the women who consistently get abortions on a regular basis. Okay, those are the real coons. Those are the real people who are selling you out. All right, the gangsters.
Yep.
Those are the real people who are selling you out. So that's it on my thoughts on the NBA and the masculinity. And it's not even just the NBA. It's boxing. It's also mixed martial arts. You got, even rappers nowadays. I mean, you got Drake painting his fingernails pink. Like, what else are you trying to say? I mean, you got men down there wearing pearl necklaces and earrings that are pearls. Bro, like, are you a man or not?
Looking like
Choose what
grandma's
you
trying
want
to
to
go to church.
be. For real. So, like, it's what we have been seeing nowadays. And, I think it's going to get worse. Okay?
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's
it
going to
definitely
get
is.
worse.
That's a fact. It will.
So, now that we've had this rant, okay, we're going to dive into some of the NBA, okay? So, the next topic that we're going to touch on is we're going to talk about Damian Lillard. So, Damian Lillard, we all know that he's on the Bucks as of right now. I think personally there's going to be a lot of expectations on him that he's never seen in his career. And to me, I feel like pressure is going to bust pipes. It's not going to make a diamond. I believe that Damian Lillard is honestly just a poor man's Steph, and he's even poorer than that. To me, I don't think that he's even on the level of Steph defensively and when it comes to the impact off the ball or on the ball. To me, he needs the basketball in order for him to be effective more than anybody thinks. And to me, I think that the first year in regards to, Giannis being on the team and their success, I believe that it's going to be a lot tougher than what people think, especially in the playoffs. We all know that Damian Lillard is actually not a superstar. Okay, I think that he's just a star player, and he's always been a star player. And we all know that Giannis is a star player, but we all know that the Bucks' kryptonite is the Celtics. Okay, we saw what happened when Drew Holiday went over there. As of right now, they are doing great, and he's been fitting in seamlessly, and he's a far better defender and a smarter player than Marcus Smart ever was. And he's also Damian Lillard's kryptonite. So I do feel like that's definitely going to be a huge issue. And in regards to the Bucks, I do believe that they are going to be a top 2 seed. But come playoff time, can Damian Lillard step up? And in my opinion, I just don't see it happening because I've never seen it happen. Okay, especially in regards to against the elite teams, not first round exit, teams that are expected to go out in the first round, okay? But when it comes to the time and when the lights are the brightest, okay, we've seen Damian Lillard choke. And that's what I'm expecting for him to do, especially since the lights are even brighter in Milwaukee. So, what you think about it, Mike?
I mean, he's supposed to be the second piece to Giannis's puzzle, right? I mean, that's why they got him, Damian Lillard, because, they wanted to make sure that Giannis stuck around. Now, it worked in the short term. It worked because Giannis just signed a 3-year, $186 million extension about a day or two ago. So they wanted to make sure they kept their franchise star happy and that he didn't bolt elsewhere. Not that I personally thought Giannis would be the kind of guy to do that sort of a thing, but you never know. I mean, it could have been that he
You never know.
decided Exactly, that he decided, you know what, maybe I don't want to be in Milwaukee in the long term. Maybe I do want to trade after all. And here's a guy that has already done technically his service to the city of Milwaukee. He got them a championship, their first championship in 50 years. But this is a team that's been
Right.
seemingly missing that one guy. I think if they would, I mean, Chris Middleton's a very solid player. He's not on an elite level that Giannis is, or even, some other lesser superstars around the league are. He's a star, Chris Middleton. When he's healthy, he's a very effective player. But you saw what happened when they were missing him in last year's playoffs. A 7-game series against Boston. They needed Chris Middleton for that game 7. They didn't have him. Giannis didn't know what to do. Milwaukee got blown out. This past season was different. I mean, Giannis got hurt, and that really affected them against Miami. I think if Giannis didn't get hurt against Miami, they probably would have won that series. But, with that said, there's been some frustration the last couple of years. A first-round exit last year, despite being the 1 seed. The year before, losing in 7 games to a Celtics team, that series could have gone either way. Milwaukee could have won it. They're thinking, okay, we need to get Giannis a 1A, and they see Damian Lillard as that 1A. And what they're banking on is this, in my estimation. You have a guy in Lillard that has basically done all he could do in Portland, except for win a championship. He didn't win a championship. He didn't get through 2 finals, but many years of them being a respectable playoff team, a conference finals appearance, multiple second round appearances. It wasn't the successful tenure that others have had where they've won rings or have at least gotten to a finals, but he put Portland in a respectable tier. They're banking on, okay, he was in Portland for 10 years. He got drafted in 2013. Maybe this will rejuvenate him. Maybe this will give him a clean slate and motivate him mentally to unlock levels that we haven't seen in him before. But here's the thing. I agree with you. We haven't seen it. And I'm not talking because some people listen to this and say, well, what about that shot he hit against Houston? Well, what about that shot he hit a few years later against Oklahoma City where he waved goodbye? Those are moments. I'm talking about a prolonged stretch across multiple rounds of excellent, consistent performances where you're giving your team a chance to win every night. Does that mean you have to go out there and drop 50 points every night? No. But you play good defense. You make key plays in the defensive end that help your team and put them in positions to win. Obviously, the points factor into it too. If you're dropping a consistent between 20 and 30 points when you're going out there across multiple rounds of playoff basketball, that is what we call consistent, good playoff performances that put your team in positions to go far. We haven't seen that. I'm not going to count his rookie year when he came in and Portland put up a good season with him and LaMarcus Aldridge, and they got knocked out by the Spurs who won the championship. That was his rookie year. Since then, okay, when they won that Game 7 on the road against Denver a few years ago to go to conference finals, it wasn't Lillard that put him in the conference finals. It was C.J. McCollum having the game of his life. And when he went to the conference finals against Steph, Steph took him to school. Steph has pretty much taken him to school the entirety of Portland's playoff runs. LeBron took him to school in the bubble. So the idea that, he would be the 1A when reality has proven him to be on a grand scale when you need him most ineffective, it's a big bet to make, especially considering the fact Milwaukee basically sacrificed the rest of the decade. They have no draft capital. They gave all that up to Portland. Portland right now made out like bandits in their rebuilding efforts. So if you're the Bucks, you're praying that this works because the Eastern Conference is open right now. You got the Celtics, who are a legit contender. You have to throw the Sixers in there because even though they choke in the playoffs every freaking year, they're at least a 2 or 3 seed. You have other teams that are on the come up. The Cavs are there. We'll see what the Knicks do this year. There's teams. Miami's the defending Eastern Conference champion. So it's not an easy conference, but it's open enough to sneak in. I don't think Dame's going to be the one to put him over the top. Now, if we're in June, fast forward 8 months to June of next year, and Dame Lillard is standing up there with Giannis holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy, then egg on our face, we were wrong. But history tells us he hasn't done any kind of performance at that level, and I don't think at 33 years old, going on 34 at the end of his prime, he's going to start now. They'll go far. They'll win 50 games. They'll probably get to the conference finals. They might even make the finals. If they do, it's going to be more so because Giannis and his greatness than because of Dame and his.
Right. And like I said, this is the chance for Dame to prove us wrong. This is the chance for Dame to prove us wrong.
If not now, then when?
Right, exactly. If not now, then when? Here's the last thing that we're going to be diving into is Victor Wembanyama. It's been so many expectations on him, and it's just been wildfire with him. Everybody, they believe that he has a chance of being the greatest player of all time. And to me, I think it's too soon. I think that it's possible that he has potential to be a top 25 player of all time. And to me, the only way that he could separate himself for real is if he decides to build his own brand, okay, and not go to Nike or not go to Jordan. Make his own sneaker, okay, do something like that. And also, he would have to be extremely charismatic with the way that he plays. That's the only way that he's going to be able to actually have a chance of being the greatest of all time. Plus, he has to win at a very high level, okay? Right. And like, put it like this. In regards to LeBron James, right? He never ventured out from Nike, okay? Nike was actually built off of Michael Jordan, okay? But he never decided, in terms of LeBron James, to go and start his own sneaker brand. He never did that. Steph Curry's doing that now, okay? Okay, he's doing that now in terms of trying to elevate Under Armour. But Michael Jordan, he built Nike to such a high level to the point where that people even forget that Michael Jordan made Nike relevant. It wasn't the opposite. Okay,
Right.
and like and basically Nike was a runner shoe before MJ. It was a runner shoe. And then the next thing you know, MJ, he does all this stuff, elevates to such a high level to the point where people, they actually forget about what MJ's contributions were to Nike. Now all of a sudden, they have LeBron James. LeBron James, he never left Nike. And that's actually the reason, that's actually partially the reason why he'll never be considered the greatest player of all time. Because he never left. He never
Right.
left
Never
Nike.
branched out.
Now,
You're totally
very
right in
much.
terms of individualism
So,
and LeBron not branching out, And Wemby might do the same thing or might not do the same thing.
right, yeah. Wembanyama, he has to do something differently in order for us to be able to feel like he has a chance to be the greatest of all time. Okay? He has to win. He has to do so many different things, but the hype is behind him so far in that people, they actually become delusional. They aren't even, you know, really watching the game to even see if he truly has a chance to become that. Now, I do think that he does have a chance of becoming a great talent, and we'll see what happens down the line because he is frail, okay, and he has to grow into his man body, and as of right now, it's not there right now. Okay, he has to get into you know good shape in terms of his body frame. Okay, because he could get injured quickly. Okay, and like I said, he has the skills. He could dunk. He could block. He could shoot the basketball. He could dribble. So he could do all these things, and he's a great player. And to me, I do feel like the league is definitely going to push him because of the fact of him being a foreign player. And the NBA, they're trying to go more and more global. Okay, so they may give him awards that he may not even deserve. But to us, we just need to see him actually, work hard for those awards. And then, he will definitely get everybody's eye for sure. But he's also playing in San Antonio. But it's on him to be able to make San Antonio pop it. That's the only way that anybody's going to view him differently. Okay, because Tim Duncan, he has a great case for being considered, you know, the greatest player of all time, but nobody considers him one of the greatest players because of his game not being pleasing to the eye. Okay, if his game becomes pleasing to the eye in regards to Wembyamba, right? Then people, they're definitely going to believe that he has a chance. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people, they did not believe in Patrick Mahomes, but it's only so much you could take away from the man. And now,
Right.
he has the excitement, he has a swag with his game, and then on top of that, he has the leadership qualities along with the winning and the stats, the individual stats and the individual accomplishments. So all those things matter, and now we have him top 3 all time. So this is what we need to see out of Victor. See, what I'm expecting from Victor is for him to at least win Rookie of the Year. Okay? At least. And then maybe, 3 years down the line, he should be able to make the playoffs. Okay? But I'm not going as far, and I'm not pushing for him to be the greatest of all time. I'm just not. Okay? So, we're going to see what happens, but it just remains to be seen. What's your thoughts, Mike?
No, I agree. There's nothing I can really add to that. I think it's way too early. His debut was fine. He had 15 points, 5 rebounds. He shot the ball well. He was 6 of 9 from the field. So it wasn't a bad debut by any stretch of the imagination. I think with any kind of generational talent, you put a lot of pressure on them to live up to their hype and live up to their billing. And I think he's got a good enough headspace to avoid all that hype. I think anybody that's saying this guy could be the greatest player of all time is just looking to get their name out there and looking to get some attention. Let the guy play a few years first. And it depends on the situation, too. I mean, keep in mind, when Tim Duncan got to San Antonio in 1997, after getting selected 1 overall, the only reason San Antonio was bad for that 1 year is because David Robinson got hurt and Greg Popovich decided it was a lot better for them to tank than try to go out there and be good. So it worked because prior to that, the San Antonio Spurs throughout all of the 90s had been a playoff team, and just 2 years prior to Duncan getting there, were in the Western Conference Finals. So this is not exactly the same situation. Tim Duncan came into a great situation. The team was a lot better. David Robinson was back and fully healthy. That first year there, they won 56 games, got to the second round of the playoffs before Utah knocked them out in 5. This is the Spurs team that's definitely rebuilding. And I think he's in a good enough situation where, A, the lights are bright. There's a lot of history in San Antonio, great history, but not to the same degree as if he was playing for the Bulls and Michael Jordan's shadow, or if he was playing for the Celtics, or if he was playing for the Lakers, franchises like that. He can be himself in San Antonio, and he's got a great coach. The fact that you can come in and have a Hall of Fame coach, at the ready to help you out and guide you through your early years in the NBA is nothing but a plus for him. But I think the good thing about Wemby, too, just to wrap that take up as well, and I'll end with this, is besides the good head on his shoulders, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's unsure of himself. He seems comfortable in his own skin.
Right.
He seems comfortable with his and confident. That's another good word, and that kind of encapsulates what I want to say as well, and who he is and what his abilities are. And he'll progress at his level. It's not to say that he's going to be lazy and complacent, but he's not going to go out there and feel like he has to jump the gun and push himself harder than he needs to try to live up to a certain billing, I should say. He's not going to be the next Michael Jordan. He's not going to be the next LeBron James. He's not going to be the next, Tim Duncan, but he is going to be the first Victor Wembanyama.
Right. Just as long as he keeps that mindset, though.
Yeah, as long as he keeps that mindset, he'll carve out a good career for himself.
Right.